welcome to another edition of Let's Give It a Voice here at the Voice of Hope Media. Myself, the host, is Sibling. I wish you well. I hope you all are doing well, and thank you so much for joining us today on another edition of Let's Give It a Voice. So today we are giving a voice to childhood. Today we have a panel, people from almost all over the world. We have people from Nigeria, we have people from the UK, different parts of the UK. We have individuals. We have joining us
Sorry
today.
about that. We have individuals from Dublin, and it's a pleasure having you all today. If you're just joining in, you're tuned onto the Voice of Hope Media, and the edition today it's Let's Give It a Voice. And as I said, we are giving a voice to childhood trauma and healing. Today we have Johanna, we have Teresh, we have Faith, we have Alima, we have Ivy, we have Dr. Doreen, and then we also have Marcia, who will be joining us shortly after 5 p.m. So I just want to welcome each and every one of you today, and thank you so much for honoring my invite and for taking your time to come onto the show to educate the masses on this issue of childhood trauma. So, what do we do at the Voice of Hope Media? At the Voice of Hope Media, we aim to educate, to empower, to inspire, and to give hope to those who are facing challenging or complex life issues, including special educational needs. So, the Voice of Hope Media is a safe platform, it's a safe space where you are encouraged to share your experiences, to share your stories, knowing that you will be heard and you won't be judged or stigmatized. So, at the Voice of Hope Media, we give a voice to those issues where most people think they are too emotional, they are too sensitive, they are too taboo. Those issues where whenever somebody brings them up, you are either sad, you are either angry, or you don't just want to hear about them because of maybe an experience you have concerning these particular issues. But we have seen that it's very necessary, and and it's healing when you give a voice to those things which hurt you, to those things which you do not have a good experience about them, because when you give a voice, or every experience that is lived has the power to transform your life, because every experience is valuable, it is worthy. And when you share that experience, you don't only heal yourself, but you also help to heal others out there, because every experience is what you gain when you didn't get what you wanted. You're welcome once more. If you're watching, share and invite your friends to watch, to listen, and to also participate with questions, because we are going to discuss quite a lot today. We are going to learn, as I always say, and also unlearn, because there may be things which we have experienced in the past as children, but we do not know that these particular issues are affecting us as adults. So we are going to look into childhood trauma. And it is said trauma is uncomfortable to bring up in conversations. Yes. But here at the Voice of Hope Media, we have to give a voice to such issues. We have to make these conversations open. We have to make these conversations comfortable, and to let everyone feel confident in sharing their experiences. You don't often hear about trauma. And then, despite the fact that 60% of adults report some kind of abuse or trauma in their childhood, still people do not want to talk about them. You hear even less about tools to heal trauma, or to uncover it, or to face it, or feel the pain associated with trauma, and even to let go. So, as we discuss today, we are going to also look at some of those coping mechanisms, some of those tools that can help us if we have, or if we are struggling today as adults because of childhood trauma. We are also going to look into to look into ways of healing ourselves. And as you are sharing your experiences, be rest assured that you will help heal one person out there. Childhood trauma is an event, it is a situation or an environment you experienced as a child that left you feeling vulnerable and like you couldn't count on the world or other people to keep you safe. For many, childhood trauma has the unfortunate consequences of affecting their ways of thinking and relating to the world and others as they become adults. This can mean you find life at times challenging and difficult in ways that you might not be able to logically explain. We have There are so many forms of trauma. They may be obvious or they may be hidden forms of trauma, which we are going to look into them during our discussion. And you are tuned onto the Voice of Hope Media once more, and we are streaming live on Facebook and on our YouTube channel. So let's bring in all our guest speakers now. Oh, at the stream and at the stream. So let's start with our introduction. We start with Johanna. Johanna, welcome once more to our show and thanks for honoring our invite. Just your introduction. Yeah.
Yeah, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. I know some people are having day, some people are having night. Good morning. My name is Johanna Mukake, and I'm from Dublin, Ireland. I'm a social care worker. Oh, it's back. As I was saying, my name is Johanna Mukake from Dublin, Ireland. I'm a social care worker, and I work with people with intellectual disability. So most of them have this issue of childhood trauma, like up to their adult age. For me, the experience I had growing up in Cameroon, where our parents used beating as a way to correct you, but they did not know that what they are doing, it's not something that helps someone to stop what they are doing. It can only stop at that minute, but later on it will affect that person.
Yeah.
So growing up from home and in school, I was subject to, I call it now physical abuse, because I've come here and I've read about it and I've seen it happening.
Mhm.
So that action that they were doing affected me all through now in my adulthood. That fear, because I was constantly shut down. Whatever I want to say, they'll tell me you are wrong, you can't say it, they'll beat you and all those things. And that has happened all through my adulthood, having kids and everything, and it's affecting me now, until when I noticed what was going on, the anxiety and the constant fear to fail, fear to be judged by people. I know that it came from what happened in my childhood. So I'm working on that now, and I hope what I'll share will be able to help some people who have not yet realized that. So I thank you, AC, for this, and I thank you all the ladies that are here and the gentlemen. We are happy to have you in our midst. Not forgetting the viewers out there. Thanks for watching. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, and thanks once more for sharing your story. And like I said initially, it's going to help at least one person today. So we move on to the only gentleman in our midst today. You are the king. You're welcome.
Unmute yourself, mister.
Okay, you unmute.
Hello everyone, I'm going Teresh based in Douala, Cameroon. I am I work as an operations manager with Clothes Business Services here in Cameroon. And actually, my experience with trauma growing up, I was made to understand that I actually did not measure up to something because of how I was spoken to at home. And equally, while at school, there were equally some schoolmates that could talk down on me, and that caused me to grow up seeing myself as somebody who doesn't have a place in society.
Mhm.
But along the line, as I got to study and to learn some other things, I realized that I am not actually what people said I was, or even the words I got from home. And so that started making me to see myself differently. Though it has not been easy, but along the line, I am getting the healing from all of that. And I believe that sharing my experience this time is going to be of help to others out there. Thank you for the opportunity to give a voice to the experiences I've had all along and also the process I'm undergoing as an individual to gain healing and to become a normal person that fits in society.
You're welcome. And thank you once more for being on the show. Ivy, over to you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ivy Bingwa, and I am a mindset coach. I am based here in the UK, in Bristol, in particular. And in terms of my experience, I think, like Johanna mentioned, I would say almost every child growing up would have been through trauma in one form or another.
Yeah.
And trauma, like you said, AC, is not necessarily something that is visible. Sometimes those traumatic experiences are not even visible. And the one experience that I can think of as a child growing up in Cameroon in particular is growing up in a home where, you know, girls in particular were seen as, you were just a girl. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad himself, he made it, clear that whether you're a girl or a boy growing up, it did not matter because he was a teacher. But then growing up in the society in my little village back home, the girls in my village were seen as these are the people who go to the farms, who cook, who clean, who wash, and who do not necessarily have a voice, which meant when I grew up, I struggled making boundaries for myself and speaking up and speaking out about the things that really mattered to me. And therefore, that was my own little experience of childhood trauma, maybe not necessarily from my home itself, but from the community in which I grew up in, which was a cultural norm in that community. Now I understand it a lot more, especially with my work as a mindset coach, working with women, because I mainly work with women to help empower them to transform their lives facing things like these in particular. With my experience, I have had to find myself a coach first. The first thing that I did was I got a coach to help me through all of that. And then also working with people now it's kind of informed me a bit more about the childhood traumas. And can I just say, it's not just common to our society back home in Cameroon. It is a global thing.
Yes.
And yeah, that is my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that, what we talk about and what we discuss, I really appreciate you, AC, for putting this together because topics like these are really important, especially for us as African men and women or Black men and women in this day and age, being
Mm-hmm.
able to, go from where we grew up in our little villages to big towns like Douala or even traveling out of the country, being able to actually face the world and
Yeah.
tell your boss, no, I don't want to do this because it's not in line with my values. Or
Yeah.
telling even your partner at home that, no, I'm sorry, I can't do this right now. Can I do it in 10 minutes? That alone is a huge shift for so many people nowadays.
Yeah.
So I hope that a discussion like this will be able to empower people to start to seek those ways to change and to start to seek help.
Thank you so much, Ivy. And just to add to that, our experiences may not necessarily be experiences we faced while we were growing up in our homes. It can equally be like the other said. It can either be in a school setting, in a community setting, amongst your friend, and whoever is watching. If you are a parent or you're an uncle or an auntie, whatever is said here should not be taken offense or should not be taken as if people are bringing whatever thing happened in the past in the public because I want to believe that each and every one of us here we've experienced some form of trauma and we've decided now to speak about it. And speaking about it, we are speaking about it in terms of educating, in terms of empowering, inspiring, then also giving hope to those who are still struggling with one form of trauma or the other. So we are raising awareness and opening eyes. People are going to learn today, and people are also going to unlearn what they had struggled with in the past. And so, Faith, over to you for introduction.
Hi everyone, my name is Faith Nyaboke. I'm from Kenya. Thank you, AC, for this topic. It's something very sensitive and it's something that it's not what I think in an African setting, the way we're being raised, whatever we go through, it's supposed to hurt and make you stronger. You're not supposed to when you cry or something, it's something that is seen that you're a weakling or something, or you're not meeting up to the societal standards. So growing up, I grew up in a family that is very loving, and though in as much as we've said trauma doesn't necessarily mean that it has to have been purposely inflicted on you. For me, I lost a sibling when I was younger,
Mhm,
and he would have had special needs. He would have, I think, had hydrocephalus, but it's something that we don't talk about. My parents don't talk about it.
mhm,
It's something, while I was in school, my friend saw my mom pregnant. So, and I was so much looking forward to it. I was in grade six. So much looking forward to going home and meet my younger siblings, only to be told that he was buried there. That is it. There was nothing else that was spoken about. We've never spoken about it.
mhm,
I work as an assessor. I work as a functional assessor in the area of psychosocial disabilities. That is, I work with special needs children and I work with parents on a daily basis. And the fact that what I went through, not having this conversation, has helped me help other parents understand that the importance of having the conversation of either having a sibling who is special needs or having something a problem, whether it is domestic violence or whether it is separation in a household, the
yeah,
importance of communicating whatsoever is happening to the children so that they themselves, in as much as it's something that we can say it's complex, for them to have a little bit of understanding, not to think that they are at fault or they are the reason something happened at that time.
mhm,
So for me, losing a sibling was something that has been hard and it's still hard. Growing up in school, there was this, I can say there was a level of bullying from teachers whereby teachers label you names, they give you names, they shout at you, they tell you can never amount to anything. By the fact that I've been able to do so many things in my life, I'm like, did you really know me? You didn't know me this well. So it's really
yeah,
helped me help parents and children because I work in an educational setting. It has helped me tell parents that it doesn't matter what people say, it doesn't matter what people think, because nobody knows your tomorrow, nobody knows you 10 years from now, nobody knows your future 5 years from now. So
mhm,
being able to tell people that you know the maker, you know the design, you're not any person, you don't have any power to decide anybody's fate. So that is the positive side of what I went through that has helped me in my profession, basically. Yeah.
okay. That's brilliant. Thank you so much. I remember my own experiences at school. I had a particular teacher. I finally did not take up his subject at the ordinary level because he would insist that he would beat girls on their bottoms. And there were about four of us in class. You know, when you're in a certain class, you already know you are a big girl and you're already seeing your period, you have breasts, and so you know that you need a little bit of respect. So you won't really want to stand in front of the class and a teacher beats you on your bottom. So we used to say no. That actually affected me for a long time until I had to confront him while I was at the university. So thank you so much, Faith. Um, Alima, thank you. And your introduction, please.
Oh, hi, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Alima Jalono. I live in Bournemouth, south of England, but I was born in Freetown, Sierra Leone. And as the previous ladies have said, growing up in back home in Freetown, um, I was a very mouthy little girl, and I was one of those kids. Because my grandmother brought me up, she encouraged me to have a voice, and I was seen as naughty by my other relatives and our neighbors and people in the area. But my grandmother actually encouraged me to just maintain my my sort of my own mouthy thing, which she actually, it empowered her in a way that she said to me, it's so nice to have a granddaughter that can speak up and not being afraid to express yourself, because she said she wanted to be the last silenced generation. And I felt really, really blessed by that. And so I went to live with my dad, my real dad, and my stepmother out in the province. And obviously, as a little girl, you just wanted that male figure. And my brother already lived with my dad at the time. He went there when he passed his common entrance at 11 plus. So I wanted to be with my brother, and I wanted to be felt. I wanted to feel like I wanted to be loved by a father figure, because I didn't have a father figure in my life. I was very content with the love and care my grandmother gave me. That wasn't the issue. I just wanted to have a daddy, a father, or papa. And I got there, everything was fine with my dad. The relationship really went well. And then my stepmother arrived. And then suddenly I didn't seem to know, my dad became a different person. And I couldn't understand why I didn't get the attention anymore I used to get from my dad. The beating started, the starving. My stepmother wasn't giving my brother food, my brother and I food. We'll have the leftover at the bottom of the pot, the rice, the jollof rice or whatever it was. And it was really, really traumatic, and we had to go and hide and go to the neighbors and beg for food. So, and the thing is, my father didn't ask whether I'd done anything wrong while he was at work. He would just come back and started beating me, my brother and I, really severe beating. We were beaten so badly that we were drowned in a bathtub. And then with our soaked clothes, and then come out again, and he would beat us up with the cord you boil kettle with. I know this is going to be traumatic for a lot of people, and this is what this show is about. I know all of you see me on Facebook with my big smile, and all that is real, and that's no doubt about that. I wear my smile very well and all that, but I have been really, really, really traumatized. And I just want people to know out there, they're not alone, and they don't need to be ashamed to share their pain, because I'm still suffering from it, even at my age. I've got two children, a 23-year-old and a 21-year-old, and it haunts me every day, until last year, September, I started a therapy that is really, really helping me. I don't know if you people know about this EMDR. It's to do with eye movement, where you try and you're taught how to deal with the traumatic event, and it sort of helps you. The whole treatment helps to reduce the trauma and to be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's really, really hard. And sorry, it's just so emotional, even though I'm having this treatment, it's helped me a lot with different exercise and the way of thinking. And I'm grateful for one big thing in my life, that I've always been an optimistic little girl growing up. And that is the only aspect of me that's not been damaged. I'm still like a jovial, I'm full of the joy of whatever season it is. And I'm a communicator. And I really believe that all that has helped me. Hence, this was the reason why I chose to work with people with dementia, even though it's a different kind of pain. But it was nice that I could give something to my patient and just be there to make a difference to the world. And I just want people to know that they are not alone. And I know, obviously, with this pandemic, things are so hard for people. We're all going through this pandemic. It's a new era for everyone in the world. And I just want people to just know that they're not alone, and hope that they have somebody, or they can talk. So if it's not a family member, but there's a lot of help there. And I'm still having my therapy every week, and it's helping me a lot. It's really, really helping me a lot, and I'm so grateful for the amazing lady that is treating me. And I would never have been able to talk about this 3 years ago or 2 years ago because you kind of just feel ashamed to talk about things like this. My generation, I've sort of just buried everything that happened to me in Freetown since I came to Bournemouth to live in England. And I just sort of put it at the back of the wardrobe, but I've never been able to speak about it until when I wrote my book last year. Writing my book last
Okay.
summer opened lots of wounds.
Yeah. Let's get the sorry to interrupt you, since we are still at the introduction stage and we've already gone 26 minutes into the show. Let's get the other ladies to do the introduction, then we could go in more in explaining, saying more, and how we can find help, or how we have found help as we go with the question. So we still have two more ladies to do the introduction. uh, Doreen, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Clarice, for this program. Thank you, everyone, for attending. It's an honor. Hello, hello, are you getting me?
Yes, we are getting you,
Are you
but it's
getting me?
breaking. Yes, but it's breaking.
It's an honor for me. I pray the network gives me time to be part of this session. I am Dr. Doreen Bine. I am the founder of Teen Alive organization, which works more with teen mothers and single mothers. We also ensure child protection, and working with this set of people has not only made me to help them, but has further given me more inspiration that if I'm able to work with them, it therefore means that I can overcome my childhood trauma. And I'm not so indifferent from others. I've undergone childhood trauma. I grew up in a home where um, my parents believed that the best method of discipline was beatings, and that was quite traumatizing. And coming from a humble background, I grew up in a house where we go to school with no textbooks. They struggle to pay our fees. There are times you go to school, you are sent away for fees, and then you look at others, pupils or students in class, your classmates. They are like people of high self-esteem, and you are of low self-esteem. As such, I grew up in a way that I did not really believe in myself. I could not talk boldly because I did not have what others had. And coming from a home where we never repeated in class, but our parents would always yell at us and tell us how stupid and dull we were. Even back then, when I was in Form 5, by then I was still entering 17 years old. My dad would just say, University of Boya is graduating. I want you people to go and see how university students are graduating, and they will be like excited. He will just bash in and say, you go and see your age mates as dull as you are, and then you are asking them, why did you send me to school so late, and so on. And so it's quite traumatizing. It can be fun now. At times I used to laugh at it, but it was not easy. I used to get so angry at it that how should you insult me when I know I'm doing my best to protect myself. I grew up with that mindset, and I could not just go into public speaking until when I was growing and realizing that I have those skills in me. So I was forcing and pushing myself, and I'm still trying to overcome it because there are times I still find myself struggling to go behind, but I'm like, you can do this, go ahead. So that's who I am.
Okay, thank you so much. And over to you, Marcia. And close the door. Go on. Can you just take him? Sorry, guys. Over to you, Marcia.
Hello. Good evening. Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah. Good evening. My name is Marcia Spence, and I live in Birmingham in the UK. My parents are, I am of Jamaican heritage, and yeah, I grew up in the UK. I'm the first child of 4 children. Yeah, my interest in this subject is because I am almost 53 years old, and I have just embarked on therapy for myself, to deal with issues of trauma that I thought I had healed from. So I'm a writer and I'm a publisher. And I think the reason that some of this, my own trauma, has now remanifested was when I started writing and telling my story. And I grew up in a household where there was lots of violence. And I didn't realize, but my whole life after that was that I always had a fear feeling in my stomach. I always had anxiety. And but through the work that I do also, I work with, I've worked with multiple women of African and Caribbean heritage. And every woman that I work with has experienced, when they're writing their books, they've experienced trauma. Some absolute horrific violence in early childhood. Others, abuse, sexual abuse, gang rape, lots of issues. But what happened for me was, while I was working with my clients, there were like 3 issues that revisited me. So I was sexually abused by an uncle and by an aunt when I was a little girl. And the sexual abuse, as I approached 50, just kept coming back in my mind. And then there are another 2 issues while I've been doing work, was that my daughter, when she reached the age of 8, she actually revealed to us that she was gang raped. And so the whole family was traumatized. She didn't know. And she's now 31, and we're working with her, therapy for her, for me, as her mother, to support her. And then alongside that, I'm going to call her my stepdaughter. So that, my daughter at 16, and then my stepdaughter at 16 took her life.
Seems to be a lot of network issues from Marcia. And guys, for your information, I will be releasing my book, my very first book, on the 30th of November, and Marcia is actually my publisher. So yeah, I think she's back. That's okay. Thank you. We will talk more about the book in another show. So at the moment, I think we've had, everyone has introduced themselves. So we just go in because we are already 34 minutes. We are already 34 minutes into the show. I just want to thank everyone who has just joined in. I really appreciate you all taking your time to join us and hear from us today, give a voice to childhood trauma and how we have healed, or how we are going to look for healing. And I know just sharing our different experiences today, it is going to heal at least one person out there today. And I really appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen, for opening up and for accepting to be on our show today. So let's go on. So what's actually the difference between trauma and then childhood trauma? I know even as adults, we still experience trauma. I have. I'm still struggling to go off to overcome the trauma I recently experienced 3 years ago. But what is that childhood trauma? I would like to start with Ivy.
Sorry, what was the question? The difference between childhood
Uh,
trauma and trauma in
and
adults?
trauma. Yes, or yeah, and trauma in adults or trauma itself.
I think, right now, this is just me thinking, okay? Now, I think there is no difference.
Yeah.
But, however, having said that, children have a very, I would say, they have a way, a perspective of life as children. Say, for example, a 5-year-old. If you tell a 5-year-old that if you do this, I'll beat you up, then that child may feel traumatized already because they see you beating them as something that shows that this person does not love me.
Yeah.
Because that is how they interpret love. When you love for children, they need love, they need, they need nurture and they need structure from us.
Mm-hmm.
And when you tell a child that, I'll beat you up, then that shows that you as the caregiver, if that is coming from an adult, because children want to feel safe in the presence of adults. And if that is coming from an adult, it rings already alarm bells to that child that this is not a safe adult. And straight away, that child would feel traumatized because of that and because their safety is at risk. And for a child to feel loved, that means the child needs to feel safe to be able to experience that love. Now, for adults, it is not any different. The only difference I would say between trauma in children and adults is that an adult can analyze a situation. Now, if you tell me the same words, if you don't, go to bed at 9 p.m., I'm going to beat you up. I'll be like, what? What is that even? I can analyze that situation as an adult and be able to either negotiate or be able to talk you through changing your mind. But whereas with a child, that child might not be able to negotiate at that 5 year old to say that, mommy, please don't beat me up because I am an adorable little cutie. And the child will not be able to negotiate. All it just says to the child is, "Ooh, alarm, there's an unsafe situation."
Yeah.
And that would make the child to then start to do things to either please you so that you don't beat them, or to just say yes to everything that you do as that caregiver so that
Mm-hmm.
you do not then effect that beating on them. I'm just
Okay.
saying beating as an example, but
Mm-hmm.
it could be any traumatic experience. It could be
Yeah.
the divorce of parents, it could be anything.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. Does anyone want to add something to Eid? You just go ahead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as Ivy said, there's no different because it's all
Mm-hmm.
trauma. But the way the expression of it, like a child will not really
Yeah.
express the emotions that he is feeling at that time, but as an adult, you could identify it and you express it. So for me, that's just the difference. All
Mm-hmm.
experience trauma in
Okay.
different
That's fine.
ages.
Thank you. And anyone else?
Yeah.
Lima, do you have anything to say to that? Hi, Alima. Do
Yes,
you have
I
anything to
think
add?
yes, I think in my opinion, it's the
Mm-hmm.
trauma is trauma, but for
Okay.
children who are young children, I think
Mm-hmm.
because obviously being with the innocence and being vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
to actually experience trauma as a child is something that lives with you for the rest of your life,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something that it can be erased. You will have treatment and all the help in the world, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still there. Whilst as adult, you can analyze and share it, and you might have a best friend or somebody close to you that you can share with, because
Mm-hmm.
some kids are really quiet and they might not want to talk about how they feel, whilst with
Yeah.
adults it's vice versa. So
Mm-hmm.
it's trauma is trauma. It's still not a very nice thing to experience regardless.
Okay, that's brilliant. And just to look at some of the causes of trauma, what do you think? Let me go to the gentleman on the show today. Uh,
To me, some of the causes of trauma that I see are like we have verbal abuse, how
Mm-hmm.
maybe children growing up, they can be talked down in such a way that they get to not to see the value in themselves. And as
Mm-hmm.
such, they don't feel safe any longer wherever they are.
Yeah.
And then some causes of trauma as well might be children growing up with parents that equally were traumatized as children, and along the line they never got healing for themselves. As such, they get
Mm-hmm.
to transfer that to other people as well, including their children.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. What about you, Dr. Doreen? What do you think? Maybe I understand you work with lots of teen moms. You must have some
Yeah.
experience
If
in
I
that area.
Yes, if I take the case of teen mothers, let me look at it practically.
Yeah.
It's quite traumatic in the as far as they are concerned, because when we take their cases, if a girl gets pregnant, maybe growing in a home whereby it is either she has not been taught properly about sex education,
Mm-hmm.
or how to manage her own self as far as relationships are concerned. At the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, you may find this girl being pregnant. We understand that most parents, especially in Africa, like to see their children grow up, get married, have a good job, and so on. But once it happens, they instead traumatize these girls because most of them are unable to bear it. In most cases, they beat them up, even with the pregnancy. They send them away, they send them into the streets. They
Yeah.
are not just rejected by parents, they are rejected by the community because they are being mocked at. And at the end of
Mm-hmm.
the day, they are forced to go and cohabit maybe with the person responsible or any other guy out there. And from there, they go through more gender-based violence. They are being maltreated, beaten, and then from there they go again. You see them maybe in the streets, or some
Yeah.
of them become thieves. There are girls who are thieves because they are struggling to survive. They have to think how what they can do to provide for their children. And then
Mm-hmm.
they bring up children who further become street children and are further traumatized. So parents and the society as a whole further causes these girls to be traumatized, frustrated to an extent that they don't even have to feed for themselves. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a huge problem which we have to look into and see how we can help them.
Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. And what about you, Marcia? I know in your introduction, you
Mhm.
actually mentioned a few. Not everyone really heard what you were saying, probably because
No.
of the net. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. Clearer
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's better. That's really better now.
I
And
had to
we
move
are
around.
just
Yeah.
yeah, we are just talking about some of the causes of trauma. I know you mentioned a few of them. Do you just want to talk a little bit more
Mhm.
on
Yeah. I
mhm,
mean, I didn't realize when I was approaching my 50th year, I was really suffering with depression,
yeah.
and I I think actually it was when I was in my late 40s, but I had to actually contact the mental health services because that wasn't like me. I couldn't leave my house, I couldn't leave my
Mhm.
bed.
Yeah,
And at the time I was a mother and grandmother.
yeah.
And then when they assessed me, and that was the first time that I had my childhood experiences being referred to as trauma.
Mhm.
So in their report, they said, you've experienced multiple trauma throughout your life. So growing up in a domestic violent household, witnessing violence on a regular basis, feeling frightened all of the time, feeling unsettled. My mother used to run away from my father and take us with her, and we'd sleep on, on family members' sofas or floors or wherever, just so we could feel safe.
Okay.
And then my father would come and find her and bring her back. So I had anxiety all of my life. And it wasn't until I would say that was a mental breakdown. Then I realized how much trauma I had experienced as a child with the violence, as well as I was sexually abused by a family member. So I believe with trauma is about the ability to cope. So someone else could have a similar experience, and they may not end up having depression, as they get older, or having anxiety, but that's how it affected me. And
Mhm.
so I think when you experience as a child where, number one, you have no control, Number two, you don't even understand it. You're being treated. Something is happening to you, and you don't understand it. The sexual abuse, the one aspect of the sexual abuse that I experienced, I now know that it happened when I was 4 years of age.
Okay.
And I'm going to talk about it because if as a little child at 4 years of age, you are not going to understand what happened.
Oh.
We've lost her again. Okay. We've lost her again. So I'm just going to quickly ask this question. It's a question that just popped up on my mind, which is not part of what I earlier sent to you. I don't know if anyone has had that experience, or they think it's the case. Children who grow up with their biological parents and children who do not grow up with their biological parents, do you think that those who don't grow up with their biological parents face more trauma than those who grow up with biological parents? It's open. It's
I
open
think
to
so.
anyone. It's open to
Yeah,
anyone.
I think so.
yeah. Okay, doctor, you can go.
I would like to say something. I grew up, I went to primary school up to class 7 when I went to secondary school from 1 to 4.
Mm-hmm.
So my 4 years of secondary school was with my uncle.
Mm-hmm.
It was not easy. At one point, other people are like, you were just thinking that he was not your father. That's why you think that you were being
Yeah.
maltreated. But to
Mm-hmm.
me, I think that the treatment he will give to me, very few people will give it slightly different from what they will give their children. Growing up with people who are not your biological parents, you face more trauma. The trauma does not only go to the treatment they'll give you, it starts first with the mindset that you are not with your biological parents. No matter how well treated you are, you will not be happy. It's quite traumatic. You want to see your parents, and then some go as far as maltreating you because you are not their son or daughter. So to me, it's quite traumatic and very different from growing with your biological parent, because your biological father or mother will beat you up, but you still assume that no, these are my parents. They know why, and then you still go closer to them, you cling to them. But once it is another person doing that, you just go far away.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I think other people have other
Yeah.
go on,
Yeah,
Joanna.
what I wanted to say is when you grow up with absent parents, it comes with the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You lack empathy because you kind of be hiding that feeling. You will not show, no matter what they do to you, you will not show it. So you
Mm-hmm.
will not learn that skill to show empathy to somebody. But when you are with your biological parents, even if they beat you, they help to build your self-esteem in a way,
Mm-hmm.
because the beating is what they know how to bring their own kids. So I call that, those things are intergenerational causes of trauma. That's something I learned as well while I was reading, that
Mm-hmm.
our parents did something like that because that's what their own parents show them how to raise children,
Mm-hmm.
and they are doing it and we are doing it, and then it keeps going in that cycle. So
Okay.
biological parents could help you help you build the skills to show empathy, whereas
Mm-hmm.
absent will not. So that's me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I kind of think, is it all right if I say what I think about
Yeah.
that?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Um, I think it depends on the individuals. It depends
Yes.
on the parents and what their core values are with respect to bringing up children. Now, there
Mm-hmm.
are some parents whose core values are, I respect family. It doesn't matter. I have family values. Family is very important to me. When I say
Yeah.
core values, that means the things that are important to them.
Mm-hmm.
Family is very important to me, and it's important that I bring up children in a way that shows that they belong to a family.
Yeah.
Now, it for me, I think it doesn't matter whether it's a biological parent or not. I grew up partly with my uncle, and I did not
Yeah.
know any difference. Trust me, I did
Okay.
not know between the age when I was in class in between classes 4 and class 6. That's 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I lived with my uncle,
Mm-hmm.
and I did not know any difference whether I was living with my parents or not. because I
Mm-hmm.
was treated the same way.
Okay.
So I think it boils down to who that person is as an individual. If
Mm-hmm.
that person is a person who values other people, who value humanity as a
Mm-hmm.
whole, they would bring up that child as a human being and teach that child empathy and compassion and kindness and all of those key skills that we need to go on and live,
Mm-hmm.
as children. But
Okay.
if that person is lacking in their own ability, because when we even think about our parents themselves or our uncles or whoever brought us up, they did the best they did with what they had.
Yes.
And what
The
they know.
resources that they had, those were the best resources. And if that person is not well resourced with compassion and kindness and all of those skills, then they're
Mm-hmm.
likely not to pass anything on to that child. So
Okay.
Mhm.
even if it's a biological parent, even if that biological parent cannot or does not even know how to show compassion to teach the child those
Mm-hmm.
skills, the child will grow up not having those skills. So what
Mm.
I'm saying is it boils down to who that person is as an
Yes.
individual.
Okay. Well, that's brilliant. Because growing up with a non-biological parent, sometimes you may not even have the chance to compare because uh, you may have been taken way too young. So you may not
Mhm.
even know what it would have been like growing up with your own parents. Like myself, I can't really make that comparison. I grew up with my elder sister and her family. I'm like their eldest daughter from the age of 8 till the age of 26. So sometimes I can't really compare how life would have been like if I grew up with my biological parents. But as it is, from what Ivy has said, it all boils down to the values of that individual, be it an uncle, be it an elder sister, or a foster parent or an adopted parent. It all boils down to individuals. And unfortunately, some children who maybe grow up with parents who are not their biological parents, sometimes they go there with already a mindset fixed, or maybe they have already been indoctrinated that just know that where you are going to, you're not going to be with she is not your mother, he is not your father, so you have to behave in a certain way, you have to do things in a certain way. But it all boils down to individuals. Alima, what do you think? Do you have another opinion, or can you hear
I
me?
agree with
Yeah.
I agree with what Ivy said. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I can hear you. I
Yeah.
agree with what Ivy said. It's all about the individual parents, the
Mm-hmm.
individual adult, grown-up adults, because I know a lot of people that have had more parents, mom and dad in their home, and
Mm-hmm.
they've experienced more trauma than I have.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can't really say either or which is good or what's not good. It's difficult to say. I had my grandmother up to the age of 9,
Mm-hmm.
and I then up to the age of 11 plus, I was with my dad, my real dad, and my stepmother, where I experienced all that abuse.
Okay.
So, and but it is exactly what Ivy said. It just
Okay.
depends. As it said, the adults do what they can under their circumstance. And when you're a child,
Exactly.
you're very vulnerable, aren't you?
Yes, you are very vulnerable because first
Yeah.
and foremost,
Mm.
you may be in a situation where you don't really have a voice, especially
No.
in decision making.
Mhm.
I think most homes in Africa, or let me say
Mm.
in Cameroon where I grew up, the child
Mm.
does not really have a voice
Yes,
in
no.
so many
No.
things.
No.
No.
Decisions are
Mm-mm.
just being made and they are imposed
Mm.
on you, and you as the
Yeah.
child, you just have to
Mm.
listen and you go. But those are
Mm.
also some, I
Mm.
would like to call that one of the
Mm.
it can be an invisible trauma, because
Mhm.
the
Mm.
fact that you were a child and you were not being
Mm.
consulted, or decisions about you were not even mentioned to you,
Mm.
it may affect you in the long run, because as an adult,
Mm.
as a grown up, being
Mm.
independent, sometimes if somebody is trying to make decisions for you, you may feel
Mm.
intimidated, or you may
Mm.
become defensive, and this may be
Mm.
some of the effects.
Yeah.
Yeah. Teresh, what about you? Do you think there's a difference between a child who grew up with biological parents or not?
I think there is a difference, and equally it depends too on where the child grows up. Because there are some families where when you go there as a child from a different home, the children might make life tough for you, even if the parents accept you as their own child. The children might like
Okay.
remind you maybe of where you are coming from. Moses,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah, his network is broken. Yes, some
talk
children.
you down, and as such, it actually might turn out to be a traumatic situation. But in a situation where the children as well as the parents can treat you well, I don't think it will be a traumatic situation. So it actually depends on the particular family involved and the individuals.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. What about you, Faith? Let's hear from Faith and then we move on to the next question.
Okay, for me, say I would still agree with what I said. I think it comes to individual is the individual family, so the resources because just as Doreen had said, it's something. It's more like intergeneration. The way they were brought up, best is how they think that is how they're supposed to bring out children. So if an individual believes in love, that is what they give. If they believe beating and physically beating you and shouting, that is what is going to make sense and make you work hard. That is what they like to do because it worked for them. We've had instances of parents telling you, I was beaten and that is what made me read. I'm doing the same so that you can read. So it's something that I would still say it's something that goes to what the individual perspective is when it comes to upbringing.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I just want to appreciate everyone who is watching, and we also appreciate your comments. If you have any questions, please feel free to if you have any questions, please feel free to write them there for our guest speakers. I'm sure they will be able to answer them as the show goes on, if not during the show, also after the show. So how do we recognize that someone has been affected by childhood trauma? Ivy,
Pardon?
come back here. You are here. How do you recognize that someone has been affected by childhood trauma?
Um, I don't know. Tell you what, as I think in order to recognize it, it's quite hard to
Mm,
say that,
mhm.
you know, you go around looking at people and looking at their mannerisms and go around and do this and say that childhood trauma and you're not that one person is. It's quite hard. But
Yeah.
if I was in, it's quite hard to identify it from
Hmm.
someone that you are not very close with.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you were a lot closer to that person, say for example, if you were teaching some children, I teach children as well. If
Hmm.
I was teaching children, just by teaching my students, I
Hmm.
can see them, the way that they react to certain things that are happening within the environment, the
Yeah.
way that they interpret a question that you ask. So it's through communication. It's
Hmm.
through talking to people that you start to understand the experiences that they've been through, the lives that they've lived,
Yeah.
and how those experiences have impacted their lives as people. I just think it's through communication. Also, obviously, there are medical ways of identifying trauma as well, like going
Hmm.
to psychotherapists, counselors, and medical doctors, and
Hmm.
all of that. So I think
Okay.
much as it is a medical m- it can be recognized in the medical field. It can also be recognized in the in classrooms, in homes, by talking to people and just getting connecting with them really. Yeah.
Okay. Joanna, what do you think?
Well, for me, I'll talk from personally how I knew that these were the things happening to me. On
Hmm.
my journey to discover my true self,
Yeah.
I noticed that most of the time I talked about fear. I know how to do a lot of things, but to get out there to do those things, I'm withdrawing back.
Yeah.
So I gave a lot of false self. For example, the things I always, people see me as a very strong woman,
Yeah.
that upon everything I've gone through, I'm very strong. But in that, I noticed it's coming from what they told me, that I can't do anything.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to do something and that thing you're trying to do, you feel you have that urge to do that thing and you are going back, when you are looking at yourself, look your true self, where you grew, how you were raised, and your environment that you are even now, you'll
Okay.
be able to identify that it's something that you need to work on.
Okay. Wow,
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
that's my,
Yeah. So, do you mean to say that being constantly told in the past that you cannot
Yes.
succeed, you
Can I
cannot
say
do
something,
anything without me, or
Stacey?
yeah, can that be?
no, yeah, that can be,
Okay.
that's something that will suppress you, that
Okay.
you can't, when they keep telling you are stupid or you're too dull, you couldn't pass an exam and all those things,
Mm,
it kills your self-esteem, especially as a woman. You are
Mm-hmm.
not
mm,
good enough, so you tend on trying to be good enough to people,
yes.
but you cannot, because that mental picture or what they said to you is still roaming your head. But I'm not good enough. Why am I trying to do this?
Yeah.
So that's how it manifests to people.
Okay. Thank you so much. Marcia, did you want to say something?
Mm. Yeah, oh, yes, I agree
Mm-hmm.
with that. I think that someone who is suffering, has suffered childhood trauma, they may be aware of it or not aware of it.
Yeah.
But like my colleague was saying earlier, the other guest was saying earlier, that um, you can identify when somebody wants to move forward. So, for example, in my work, I mean, I'm also a coach as well, but they want to move forward, but there's something that always pulls them back. So they take the steps forward in their relationships or in their career or business, but there's just something that gets in the way. And so it definitely is. So you can see that there's something that stops a person, and it would, if you're a coach, I think a coach can do some work. However, it would then take for the individual to have some talking therapy. I don't believe
Yeah.
that just
This is
or depressed. I don't necessarily believe that just handing out medication is an opportunity to share about their life, about their childhood, and then through that opportunity to be able to
mm-hmm.
speak, you
Okay.
then can start to uncover all those layers. Because as of every time I speak, as people, we're like onions, aren't we? So there's
Yeah.
layers and layers,
Mhm.
opportunity
Mm-hmm.
to and delve and see
Yeah.
what the issues are
Yeah.
Yeah.
is the best thing. So something is in the way. What is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the network keeps worrying.
I don't even know if you
I
could hear me.
Yeah, not completely. It keeps breaking, so we don't
Breaking
really
up.
hear everything that you're saying. So
Oh,
yeah. So
oh
anyway,
no.
thank you so much for that.
Okay.
Alima, what about
What a
you?
shame.
On
On
mute.
mute.
Alima, unmute yourself, please.
Okay.
Could you repeat
Yeah,
the
that's
question
fine now.
because everything keep pausing? Sorry. Could you just repeat the question, please?
All right. I was asking how can you identify that someone, how can you recognize that someone has been suffering with childhood trauma or as a result?
Um, for me, while I was living with my dad and my stepmother between the age of 9 and
Mm-hmm.
11 plus, I was very withdrawn at school. I didn't make friends at school during lunchtime. I would just once. Can
Yes,
you hear
go
me?
on. Yeah.
Yes, I was very, very quiet at school. I didn't make friends or anything like that. I would just be on my own lunch
Mm-hmm.
break. And the same thing at home. I I found it really, really hard making friendship on when I was in primary school.
Okay.
And yeah, I was very, very withdrawn. And one day a teacher asked me, a teacher that recognized the whole abuse thing and wanted to go and report my father and my stepmom. And I begged her not to, because obviously I would have had more beating and flogging. And yes, I just got really withdrawn. And the fear aspect of things, even though I'm really confident as a woman, and I believe I'm really, really strong woman, but the
Yeah.
fear is always something that I have to deal with on a daily basis because I have a serious anxiety problem.
Yeah. Okay. Are you okay?
Yes, I am. Yeah. Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much. I'll move over. I will move forward. Then I would like to ask this question, and I'm starting with Doreen. Okay, Doreen, how can you, as a family or as a friend, support someone who is struggling because of childhood trauma? You can still take example of you working with your teen moms. How do you support them?
The first thing to do is first I give an opportunity
Mm-hmm.
for them to always talk. In most
Okay.
cases, you can engage them indirectly, but not
Mm-hmm.
going directly to what has hurt them in the past. Because when
Okay.
you go directly to their pain,
Mm-hmm.
they may not talk, they will feel more traumatized.
Okay.
And in another way, we go further to give them the opportunity to share their views on a situation, on how to handle their situation. Because nowadays, most people think that if you see a situation, you should be the person telling them. Those who are not experts, you should be the person telling the victims or the survivors what should be expected of them. But
Mm.
in case they open up, you listen to them, listen keenly, and always give them various options on how they can be helped, and let them
Okay.
choose, let them decide. Because the more we impose, the more they feel that they are still in that pain. So
Okay.
normally I struggle to make sure that I bring them more closer. I reach
Mm-hmm.
out to their guardians or parents,
Mm-hmm.
maybe talk to them. At
Yeah.
times, even if the parents are not concerned, I can go to a gathering of women just to talk about raising up children and approaching children in the house, their way of handling children.
Mm-hmm.
At times you can be talking and you realize that one of the children who are suffering, the parents are there and it was a target for you, but you could not go directly to that parent. And then you have
Yeah.
an opportunity to share and you realize that they will become better and they may even bring the children back home. Like I remember last year I organized a Christmas party for teen mothers, and on
Mm-hmm.
that day I was trying to get feedback from them after working with them for 6 months. I wanted to see how far they have gone, and I had two
Mm-hmm.
new cases. They were talking and crying. They cried for long, and the opportunity was that we gave them the opportunity to cry. We don't stop them, allow them to
Okay.
remove their pain, and then we come in now, we see how to moderate, and then we are working with them. We get psychosocial support experts because we have an expert. I'm not the expert in the house, but I've acquired knowledge over the years, but I cannot take the position of an expert, and then we keep them to be working with some of these girls.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Ivy, what do you think? How can you, as a friend or as a family member, support?
Mic is muted.
Yeah.
Unmute yourself, Ivy.
We were doing
Can
it.
you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. So I do agree with, by the way, the volume is really low. I can barely hear
Okay.
um everyone talk. So I'm not sure what's
Mm-hmm.
happening, but the volume is really
Yeah.
low. Maybe it's just from my end. Can
Maybe.
everyone hear me all right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
perfectly well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right then. So I was saying that I do
Yes.
agree with everything that Doreen has just said.
Mm-hmm.
Um, getting psychosocial help, also allowing the person to talk, and serving as maybe a listening ear. Now, so many people underestimate the power of just listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listening is an amazing tool, an amazing skill that we sometimes underestimate, because with issues of trauma, there's no magic pill that you can take to suddenly eradicate trauma that you've
Yeah.
lived throughout. So it is really important that people who are, say, suffering from trauma, first of all, whoever is providing that listening ear, or whoever is providing this psychosocial help that they are providing, it is important that the person first of all creates rapport with the the person who is traumatized.
Yeah.
Rapport is very important. Rapport builds trust. It also sets expectations and boundaries as well. How far along you can go in terms of how much help you can offer. Because another thing is, with someone who is traumatized, for you as the person who is trying to help them, you also have to look after yourself,
Yeah.
because you can then take on that person's trauma, and then you are traumatized from their trauma, or it can trigger certain things within you as an individual, and then you become re-traumatized from your own trauma because of the experience that they are recounting to you. So it's
Okay.
really important that first of all you set boundaries around yourself as the person who is giving care to the trauma, to the person traumatized,
Yeah.
and the person who is traumatized also knows that you are there to help, you are there to support, but you will not do the work for them.
Okay.
They
Okay.
have to be able to put in that effort. So it is about creating rapport, first of all, to then be able to listen to them, because when you create that rapport, the
Yeah.
person will then be able to
Trust.
share whatever it is that has traumatized them. And then moving on from that, also encouraging the person to know that they have to do that work that is
Okay.
needed, because most of the traumatic experiences that we experience are, I see it as a script. When you,
Mm-hmm.
Marcia, this might kind of resonate with you because you are a publisher and you do scripts and books and all of that. But when I see trauma as a script, that script was written whenever you were traumatized.
Yeah.
And to get rid of, or to start to heal from that trauma, first of all, the script needs to be read. The
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
script then needs to pretty much take a rubber or an eraser and almost erase everything that was written, and then write a new story on that same script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is the way I see it. And that is the way I kind of help people to be able to then, face it. But obviously, there is, like Marcia said earlier, there are a host of people who kind of need to almost work together hand in hand to help this person. There are
Yeah.
counselors, there are therapists, there are coaches. Each of these people do a part or play a part in one way or another in helping the person who is traumatized to move forward.
Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much. So each and every one of us, if you've experienced trauma, you need to look at your trauma as a script
Script. Yeah.
where you have to use a rubber or an eraser to erase it and write a new script. And that it's not going to take a day.
No.
That is not going to take 2 days. It doesn't mean you will need a pill to swallow for that to happen. It's a process, as I will call it, but you need to but you have to be at that position where you'll be able to identify that you are struggling before. Wow, this show is really interesting.
I
Thank you
know.
so much thank you so much
Yeah.
once more, guys. And does anyone have anything else to add with that particular question?
Yeah. For me, I would say once we've experienced that trauma from childhood and now adulthood, we have some symptoms that comes up with
Mm-hmm.
that. Like a person, for me, after I had the baby,
Mm-hmm.
anxiety was my big issue, and
Yeah.
that anxiety, fear came in. So it revisited the whole experience of fear and all those things.
Yeah.
So one thing I do when I have friends who have the same issue, because depression, I had postnatal depression after that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But you will see friends with who had that trauma, they will go into this state of depression.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the biggest thing I do if I see you or if you talk to me, like Ivy said, trust and build the rapport and everything. I am someone that I'm passionate about exercise. So I
Okay.
motivate.
Mhm.
I exercise. I go to that person and I always do the exercise. Try to just go out. I do long walks, and my kids will always tell me the mileage on your feet are finished. Because I
Yeah.
go, if I just feel a state of fear of what will happen, I could
Mhm.
leave this house and do 10 kilometers. So I motivate people who have this issue just to go for walk, just to do something, just to do exercise. Because
Mhm.
doing that exercise will help to erase that script and then
I
rewrite
see.
the new ones. So
Okay.
that's me. That's part of me. That's how I help my friends who suffer from anxiety and any other issues from
Oh, I
childhood
see.
trauma.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Faith, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say, in as much as it all comes to trusting someone, yeah, listening to someone, we all have to accept the fact that anyone's pain is
Yes.
valid.
Yeah.
No matter for you, it might be something
Mhm.
that you think is small. For the other person,
Yeah.
it's something that is major to them. So before we
Mhm.
even before we judge, we have to accept that this anyone's pain is valid, no matter how minute it might look. So that way, it will
Yeah.
help us to avoid
Yeah.
judging. We avoid labeling. You that is something that you could. That is something small. Don't cry. You're not supposed to cry. Or this notion that once you become an adult, you're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to
Mhm.
whine about something. So if we are able to let people feel what they are feeling and express it without
Mhm.
judgment, then at least we are able to heal through the
Okay.
process and to walk through the
So
journey. Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Which is why it's really important that we are very careful with whom we open up to, with whom we share our issues or our worries with. Because if you share your issue with someone and they turn around and they judge you, that adds to your trauma as well. Yeah. So instead of you trying to figure out, trying to get a healing from what you were traumatized with, then there's an additional. You've shared your experience with someone, you've shared your worries with someone, and they are judging you or they are minimizing your pain. So what I will say is we should really know who we are opening up to. We seek professionals, close family member, someone you trust, someone you know will give you that listening ear, like an Ivy said. You should be able to listen, and when you are sharing your worries with someone, you should not always go there because you're seeking for a solution. At times you just need to talk, you just need to say the things out, and that is it. You don't need that person to tell you what to do or to give you step by step tips
Yeah.
on how to manage your trauma. Sometimes just that speaking, that talking helps a lot, and I know it is doing the same thing to some of us here. Just the fact that we are talking on this show today, and it's obviously helping someone out there right now. I may not know, but that person knows. So
Mm.
yeah, we move on to our other question. If we look critically, if we look critically on what we've already discussed here so far, one of the causes of trauma stems back to our homes, to parents, whoever they were, whether biological or non-biological. So what advice can be given to parents, to caregivers, or to anyone in authority? Um, Alima, can you start?
Yes. Well, it's considering my background, and I should actually be a damaged goods as the world will see it. But I've always been positive, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so grateful for the kind of person I am, and especially if I wasn't the type of person I am. I am a single parent. I have been for
Mm-hmm.
20 odd years. My children would have been damaged, but because I've always been a positive human being, And I do the crying, I do the sad moment, I have the low moment, I have the
Yeah.
anxiety, I have the fear. All of those are normal. I experience those each day of my life. But I had to focus when I became a single parent to make sure my children didn't have any trauma apart
Yeah.
from an absent father. And I did my
Okay.
best, and my children have done very, very well with their life. And I'm just so grateful. We just have to really make sure children feel valued. It's really, really important. They have to feel valued. They have to feel loved. Even if a child is naughty, sit them down and tell them why you're angry with them, what they've done is wrong. Explain to them. Don't just punish them, because children don't understand. When my dad used to beat me up, after he beats me up, I'll just hug him after that. Because I was a child, I thought like a child. I should have run away after the beating up, but I still wanted to hug him, because that's what you do as children, isn't it?
Yeah. Wow. Um, Ivy, what advice do you think can be given to parents, caregivers, or to anyone in authority?
I think in terms of advice, doesn't matter whether it's parents, caregivers, or people in authority, but mainly to parents, because
Yeah.
if you imagine that your child obviously goes to school and spends how many hours each day? Children
Yeah.
spend so much time in school as opposed to at home with their parents. So,
Yes.
in terms of the authority, caregivers, and parents, I would say that there is the need for education,
Yeah.
in terms of, especially for parents, and especially parents of Afro-Caribbean descent. I'm
Yeah.
not sure about ethnic minority groups like Indians and the like, but I would say Afro-Caribbean descent, parents of Afro-Caribbean descent, the first thing is we need to educate ourselves on how to actually parent. Parenting skills are very, very much lacking amongst our communities. And it doesn't matter whether you're parenting your own children or the children of a sibling or a sister or an uncle or whatever, but we need to understand what children need.
Yeah.
Children need structure and they need nurture. These two things. And the way that I've seen our parenting kind of model, we use a lot of shaming, guilting, and
Yeah.
fear, and the use of fear to
Yeah.
parent. And therefore it goes back to that fundamental platform where how parents parent. So we
Yeah.
need to educate our communities on how to parent. And like Alima said, talking to children and understanding their point of view, and not just picking up a cane to flog a child because they failed an exam, because they are not doing what we want them to do, or anything like that. So we need to bear in mind that children are individuals. They will become adults as well.
Yeah.
And whatever traumatic experiences we are inflicting on them or we're making them to experience, they would in turn make their own children to experience those. It's just a generational thing. It passes from one generation to another until there comes a generation that says, actually, I want to break this pattern. I don't want to feel the same pain. I don't want my children to feel the same pain that I felt growing up. So, mostly I call for caregivers, authorities, whatever, to understand that children fundamentally need to attach to their parents in a healthy way when they are quite young. And when I talk of healthy attachment, that includes communication, treating them as people who deserve respect,
Yeah.
as well as them respecting us.
Yeah.
Then once they attach, there comes a time when the child needs to detach from the parents. And that detachment usually happens maybe around the ages of after 9, 8, 9. For the male children, kind of detach a little bit sooner than female. They start to detach sooner than female children.
Yeah.
They detach. That detachment doesn't mean they go out and start looking for their own homes. No, it just means they don't want those hugs anymore, those bear cuddles. They you start to see their personality starts to come through. And that also needs to be nurtured as well. And sometimes during those ages, we need to encourage them to be able to show those emotions. We don't see them as, hey, you're a big boy now, you should not be crying when you fall over. No, the child needs to cry and feel those emotions, even though they are 9 or 10.
Yeah.
And then there comes a time when the child becomes an individual. They call it individuating. The child individuates. When a child starts to individuate around the ages of 13, 14, 15, you realize that the child has started, maybe if it's a girl, maybe they're seeing their period already. Maybe it's a boy, they are starting to grow hair, the voice is starting to deepen. They are starting to become a bit more conscious of maybe how they look and all of that.
Yeah.
And as parents or as caregivers, as people in authority, we also need to be supporting children around that age to make sure that they individuate in a healthy manner so that they can become healthy adults.
Okay.
So it doesn't, for me, I think it doesn't matter whether it is a person in authority. Maybe if it's a person in authority, what they need to be thinking about is, can we can we educate maybe schools so that they can educate children to understand this process as well? Can we educate schools so that they can educate parents during parent meetings, during PTAs? I know that here they have like parent groups and all of that. Can we bring parent groups together? Doreen, you're working with, teen moms. Can we educate these teen moms to know that this is the process that children are going to use to grow, so that we limit some of these childhood traumatic experiences by educating the parents to be able to parent in a way that actually fosters the strength or the growth of a child, really.
Yeah. Wow, that's brilliant. That's really well spoken. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ivy. And I know there are parent courses as well to help parents with parenting. Oftentimes, as parents, we think that because we are parents, we should automatically know everything as a parent. No. Yet
No.
there are certain things about parenting or about being a parent that comes naturally. But there are certain things as well which we can equally learn. We can actually go to school or do a course to know exactly how to parent our own children, or even parent ourselves as well. Because at times
Sorry,
as parents
guys.
we
It's okay.
yeah, because at times as parents we do need to parent ourselves. And Ivy talked about respect. I do think that if you respect a child, they will equally respect you. And as they always say, respect is
Two
earned.
way.
Is it earned?
And two
It's
way.
earned. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
And
Sometimes I say thank you. I say thank you to my 10-year-old, and he says, "Oh, why are you saying thank you?" I said, "But I have to. You just did something nice to me." And he said, "No, but you are my mom." I said, "I still have to say thank you to you."
yeah.
So I don't know where that came from. But anyway, anyone else to add something to that, to what
Yeah,
Ivy?
for me, coming, I will talk as a Cameroonian. We are all in the diaspora, maybe except Teresh that is in Cameroon. I think is Dr. Doreen in Cameroon as well.
Yes.
Yes,
Doreen, are you?
you see,
Yes, I'm in
yeah,
Cameroon.
Okay.
we have all these facilities to do all these things that we say parent teaching groups and all those things, and we could easily walk through these things in schools and in everywhere that we are. But in Cameroon, they don't really have these things.
Yeah.
So for the parents, and Dr. Doreen, as Ivy said, you have a very good program going on, because if you teach this young teenage mom, they'll be able to grow generation that they will know. Because the people like my age mates or others who are bigger, like our mothers and the rest, they did not have this and they did not teach us this.
Yeah.
This thing of culture has really killed us, mostly in Africa, in Cameroon, because they're especially not like being gender biased, but the men. If, for example, I am a mother of 4 boys, and if the men treat their wives as good as possible, not beating them and everything, you will raise generation of good men. But yeah, but when these boys see what the father is doing to the mother, they grow up and know that, oh, it's normal, my father did it, why should, because I could hear some of them keep saying that was what my father did, so I'm not a different person.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things that we have to, like Clarice said at the beginning, we unlearn. Those are the things we have to unlearn, some of those beliefs that don't serve us at the moment. So for parents, we really need to, like, awareness, mostly in Cameroon where we came from, because we are still lacking behind in all these things. And there's a lot of traumatic experiences that people are facing now, that that all of us here are into humanity, we love humanity, we are doing a lot of things. If we could come up with something that could help those people like Dr. Doreen and Dr. Teresh back home on this topic that we are doing here today, then we'll raise a generation of women and handsome men that will not do what has passed before that they were doing. So
Yeah.
that's my own. It's just awareness and education.
Yeah.
That's yeah.
That's true. Thank you so much. And in addition, I know at the beginning, Faith actually mentioned that some of the traumatic experiences we go through are are not really anything of anyone's doing. And she mentioned of
Yeah.
losing a sibling. We also know that back in Cameroon now, for the past 3 or 4 years, we've been experiencing a lot of
Trauma.
political instability. So how is it actually affecting us? It's affecting them right there directly. It's also affecting us here, because
Us.
sometimes just a phone call, you are already scared of picking up that phone call. So I think people are actually facing traumatizing situations
Yeah.
every day, each and every day. Does anyone
Can
have
I say
anything
something
to
on that?
add? Yeah.
Can I say something on that? I really wanted to mention it, this issue of conflicts, wars and conflicts, because of
Mm-hmm,
my experiences. Because I'm living in the English-speaking parts of Cameroon, and
mm-hmm,
I've worked as far as in the dungeons. I call those risky areas dungeons. I've been there.
mm-hmm.
I've been right to Freedom. I've been to Lisoka and other risky areas. First, it's not easy to
Yeah.
negotiate access, and when you go, you start seeing. Not we should not even talk of adults. You see children. You see how traumatized they are. And I launched a program last academic year in some primary schools around Boya
Mm-hmm,
on teaching sex education and making the child aware of self. So I started going to some schools, and some of the reports I had is that, such as, let me take the case of Government School Boya Town, about
mm-hmm.
75% of them are IDPs. And so, because of their traumatic experiences, they are very violent. They are coming from an area where they have run in bushes with military men, with these boys, the Amber Boys. They have experienced a lot, and then they have learned to be violent, they fight, and it's just part of trauma, because they are acting like this, they are warfing, then they are shooting as if they are part of the war. So much so
Yeah.
that we plan to start child-friendly activities with them. The COVID-19, together with lack of funds, came, and we could not realize that our what we wanted to do was to take them in groups of 50, maybe
Okay.
every weekend. We go to a cozy place where they can dance, they sing, and then we talk to them about violence. We try
Mm-hmm.
to bring them back home. Then they look at that. So you can imagine the level of trauma. They go, some of them are almost barefoot in school.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
beside that, we as individuals, beside talking to parents, we should be looking at means where we can avoid violence, we can avoid conflict, because wars and conflict has caused a lot of trauma. In the past, I've organized a child-friendly activity in Bamenda, and it brought about 50 kids around an area, and they felt very happy, because I used to look at them when the sound of the when they get the sound of the gun, they run, they are under the bed, crying, chunky on themselves. And you can imagine, we cannot name what some of these children are going through. People may not understand how it affects children. It affects children
Mm-hmm.
even more than adults, because adults can stand it, adults understand what is happening, and maybe, but when it happens, these children start crying.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Can I just say something as well, AC?
Yes,
Yeah.
Ivy.
What I wanted to say is there's one thing as well amongst us Africans in particular,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't even think this is an African thing.
Mm-hmm.
We tend to hide everything that happens within a family. We tend to say whatever happens behind these doors should stay behind these doors. And
Yeah.
even if it was as traumatic as rape, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, physical, emotional abuse, our parents used to tell us that if
Mm,
you go and talk to the neighbors about this
mm,
thing, whatever
mm,
happened here stays in this
mm,
family. We
mm.
need
Yeah.
to start educating
That's true.
those
I know.
moms that no, it does not have to stay in that family.
Mm,
Uh-huh.
It does not have to stay behind closed
Yeah.
doors. They will
Yeah.
tell you
mm,
that zip your mouth. If you speak
mm,
to someone about this thing,
mm,
you
mm,
cannot. But then,
mm,
how can a child heal if
mm,
they are not allowed to speak about it? It
Yeah.
is
mm,
really, really something that we need to tackle. We need to
Mm-hmm.
encourage
mm,
our children to be able to
mm.
speak up and to speak out and
Yes,
express themselves.
Yeah.
Now,
yes.
that will also call on some accountability on our part as
Sure.
parents.
Yes.
Sure.
Because if we are saying that, okay, so from now henceforth, you can speak about anything you want to talk about, we will start checking ourselves how we are treating our children as well. Because
Yeah.
we
Mm-hmm.
know that they will talk in school, they will sing like a song,
Oh.
they'll sing to the police, they'll sing to their teachers, they'll
Yeah.
sing to the neighbors, they'll sing it out now. So I
Mm-hmm.
think parents also need to stop,
Yeah.
Yeah.
hiding whatever traumatic experiences happen. And for sometimes there are really genuine cases that have to go.
Yeah.
Like I was reading this thing on Facebook the other day where a
Mm-hmm.
girl child was raped by a neighbor's son.
Mm-hmm.
And the neighbor's son, well, they took the matter to the police station and they
Mm-hmm.
paid, I think they paid 500,000 francs. And the mom said, okay, they've paid me, so I'm going to allow it. The child should not talk about it again. But, you cannot buy over the trauma that that child has faced.
No.
We need to start educating people to know that
Yeah.
it is all right to talk about it and it's
Mm-hmm.
not a shame. You're not going to, they used to say if you talk about it, it is a family shame. There's shame on our family,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and you might not get married because of this, or,
Mm. Mm.
but we need to overcome that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that some of our cultural values we place a lot of value on family name. We
Yeah.
don't want to
Hmm.
stain, we don't want to soil this big family name, this family we've spent
Mm-hmm.
years
Yes, to
building,
build.
molding. Then you just come one day because of one single act that happened to you, and you just want to spoil the name of this family. And to add to what you've just said, Ivy, I would like to also add that in as much as some families, yeah, most often we tell our children whatever that happens in this house stays in this house. We have
Yeah.
to keep our things inside. Yes, this I will be speaking this from I will be saying this from personal experience. In the past, when I was obviously a teenager, just years before I went to the university, I used to have difficulties. And obviously, as you are growing up, there are those family friends, those family members you look up to, that if something's happening at home that you are not happy, or that you are really hurt, you are really angry, you can open up to that
Mm-hmm.
family person. Sometimes that family person will be a family uncle, um, or a family friend that has become an uncle, or a family pastor or priest. What I discovered, one of the things that really made me to shut down and not be able to talk or to trust people, was the fact that the people you look up to, the people you open up to, are the people who want to make use of your vulnerability. As a
Yeah.
young girl, as a brilliant young girl, all they see in front of them is a beautiful young girl they can take advantage of because she's
Mm-hmm.
come to me, she's vulnerable. That was one of
Yeah.
the things that actually made me not to open up to anyone, because each person I discovered that I was opening up to, they want to use that advantage because I'm very close to them, so they can actually do whatever thing they want to do, because they know I have problems at home and I won't be able to go back home to
So
go and tell my
yeah,
my
sure.
mom or my dad or my sister or the husband that this is
Yeah,
what he has done. So that as well will also cause some
yeah.
kids, some youths to shut down
To shut
as
down.
well. Yeah, so it
Yeah,
it goes a long way to affect us in the long run as adults.
yeah.
So
So
yeah, it's
you
really,
have to be careful who to tell,
yeah, who to tell
who
as
to
well.
tell.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yeah,
Because
yeah.
some people use your situation now as a stepping stone to something they had been planning to do, but they didn't really have the chance to do or to say.
Mm,
So yeah,
mm,
we are so sorry that some
mm.
of our guest speakers have been having
No issues.
network
Yeah.
problems here, so they've dropped out. I really want to appreciate each and every one of you for staying uh, right up till this moment, and everyone
Yes,
watching. I
yes.
do appreciate all of you and your input. There are some comments which have come in my inbox, in my messenger, because of the content. Those who have written the comments do not want to be identified. So I've actually posted the comments out there for everyone to watch. We are gradually rounding up our show. We've been live for 1 hour, 42 minutes and 3 seconds. Our
Wow.
aim was to be live for 1 hour, 30
No,
minutes,
I'm
but the
never,
show really seems
never.
to be getting more and more
Yeah, it's a very
interesting.
broad topic. It's a very broad topic. I thought I'm sure we've only got only few of it, and as
Yeah.
Ivy, the mindset coach, she has just
Uh-huh.
given us a little tip of
Yes,
it. So there's still
exactly.
big thing, more things to talk about when it comes to trauma, because
Yes.
we didn't even talk. All of us here, maybe we are mothers. We didn't even talk about the childbirth trauma. Maybe talk about that one
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Yeah.
so we need
Remember.
to just pick the the
Mhm.
things from top, and it's
Relevant.
really
Mm,
Yeah.
a
mm,
a
Remember
good
that
thing. Yeah,
our topic is healing from
child,
childhood trauma and how
mm-hmm.
it
mm,
affects us as adults.
Adult.
So yeah, so
mm,
in the long run or in the weeks ahead, we can still have another show with another topic,
mm,
focusing on childbirth, that trauma during childbirth,
That would,
and the different aspects
mm,
of it.
yeah,
mm,
That would be very interesting,
interesting.
and
mm,
if we have to discuss that topic, we have to be able to take care of our own selves, not to be traumatized by
First
another person's
by
trauma.
another person.
From
Yeah.
what Ivy said. So we all know, as we round up to our last question, we all know that there are still many individuals struggling out there
mm.
with trauma, whatever the cause was. So I would like each and every one of us to say their last words, encouraging people, anyone out there who is struggling. Yeah. Ivy, I'll start with you, then to Johanna, Alima, and then Doreen.
Okay, so last words. If there's anyone out there who's struggling with trauma, the first thing is I would like for you to know that first, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Every single person, every single human being has been traumatized at one
Mm,
point or another in their lives. And you are not alone in whatever traumatic situation that you are facing.
mhm,
But then I'll also like to encourage you to seek help and to know that, one, there is no magic pill that you can swallow to get rid of that trauma.
yeah.
You
Mm-hmm.
will have to walk through the steps of whoever is providing the help for you and do that hard work. And I cannot sit here and say that it is a walk in the park, because it is not. You will have to do that hard work to, first of all, become aware that you are traumatized, to acknowledge that you're traumatized. So go from self-awareness, self-acknowledge, accept,
Mm-hmm.
self-acceptance, accept
Yeah.
that, yes, this is a traumatic experience that I'm going through, and
Mhm,
then start to seek help. And when you seek help, a helper can only help you to the extent that you're willing to accept that help.
yeah.
If I offer help to you and you're not willing to accept it, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you are traumatized, seek help and accept the help and work with the person who is providing the help for you to gain clarity, or to gain, whatever it is that you want to gain. Also, be patient with yourself. It is not a quick fix. Be patient with yourself. Allow yourself to be able to go through those emotions, all of them. I love a good cry, by the way. Okay. So I'm just going to say it out there. I love a good cry. When I cry, it's like, oh my goodness, I need some of that. Yeah. So accept that you're going through something. Allow yourself to feel those emotions, because most of our traumatic experiences, especially in childhood, are brought about by fear of abandonment, fear of feeling negative emotions. So allow yourself to feel those negative emotions and then heal and grow from it. But seek help. Speak to someone. Even if not a paid service, speak to someone who is going to listen. Make sure you're speaking to a safe person as well. Do not just go and blab to everyone. Just speak to someone that you find safe, who is going to, just give you that listening ear, because sometimes just dumping everything out of your brain, it's also helpful. And there's one other thing as well that I find really, really helpful. Journaling. It is not our thing as Africans, but writing is something that it liberates you like nothing else. If you cannot find someone to speak to, write it somewhere. Some people even suggest that write it, tear it up, throw it in the bin, and it does help. But I know that definitely from my own experience, writing does help a lot.
Yes, definitely. I will definitely agree with the writing part of it, because writing feels like you are talking to someone who will not respond, someone who will not judge you or even ask you questions. You are just pouring and pouring and pouring. So that's really brilliant, Ivy. Thank you so much. Johanna, over to you.
What one word would I give? Okay. There's this misconceptions that trauma only happen to emotionally weak people. That's a lie.
It's a big
That's a lie. Yeah. As Ivy said, seek help. Help. I suffered from postnatal depression. I did not say it to anyone. I kept it to myself. But now that I walked through it myself, now that I'm talking about it to people and they're like, you? No, I don't believe. Because I didn't tell anyone. I suffered with you, my husband and the boys here in this house. I didn't tell anyone. But as Maya Angelou said, nothing will work unless you do.
Yes.
Nothing will work unless you do. So I am doing. I've seek a mindset coach. I have one now. So I'm working on myself. I'm working on myself, and I'll come back to this media and tell you who I have become from all what I've gone through. So talk to someone. It will help you. Don't keep it. Don't keep it, because you will lose yourself and you will not find that one person out there that you can help.
That's good. Thank you so much.
Change their life.
Great.
So thank
The voice
you.
of
Thank
Hope
you all.
Media.
Thank you for the viewers and everyone. Stay
Thank
safe.
you.
COVID is real. Stay safe and be blessed.
Thank you. Over to you, Alima. And thank you once more for being on our show.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Over to you, Alima.
Yes, definitely. Whoever is watching this show, it's very, very important to find somebody you can trust. Trust is very, very important, because even if you have so many friends or know so many people, doesn't mean that you have to open up to everyone, because we have to be so mindful about who we can open up to so that we are not judged. But there is lots of help there. As I said, after I wrote my book last summer, I knew with a lot of stuff coming out, things I've buried the back of the wardrobe for decades, so I knew then I needed help. So I just went to see my GP and I was referred to the therapist team, and I'm still under therapy. And it's the best thing I've ever done for myself. So many things have come out of the closet, and there's lots of help there. Lots of help. So please please don't suffer in silence. This is the 21st century. Nobody needs to suffer in silence. There is
Yeah.
help there. You will get it. There's a lot of specialists that will be able to help you. Your
Mm.
GP is very, very good. It's a first step if you don't want to talk to your members of family and your family members or your friends.
Yeah.
So everything is confidential, so please go and seek help, especially under this lockdown. It's so needed. We so desperately need help. And I'm still on therapy every week, believe it or not. I know people think, are you really? Yes, I am. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I
Yeah.
need therapy
No.
Mm-hmm.
because I've been traumatized my whole life
Yeah.
from
Mm-hmm.
childhood. The damage is there, and I'm still a damaged good. The
Mm-hmm.
only thing is, at least I'm seeking help, and I'm not where I was 12 months ago or
That's
30 years ago, and I'm so
mm-hmm.
grateful.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's really,
Yeah.
really helpful to hear. I mean, seeking help, getting help or therapy is for your own well-being. It doesn't matter what people have to say, will say out there, because when
Mm-hmm.
you are struggling, no one really understands. No one really comes there to come and look after you i- until the worst happens, which we are not praying for it. So I also encourage everyone out there, seek help when you know everything is not, it's not okay, everything is not normal. Some people may not want, as well, some of us, from the African background, sometimes we do not like the idea of counseling or the idea of therapy. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it is necessary. We have to
Sure.
keep our egos aside and seek the necessary help that is needed. Over to you, Doreen, and thank you once more.
Thank you so much again, Clarice, for bringing me into the show. And it's nice meeting other people who have been able to talk just like me. And to our coach Ivy, I truly appreciate your contributions. So, what I'm going to add from what others have said is I'm going to take my personal self is I'll
Mm-hmm.
advise each and every person going through traumatic experience to stop being people pleaser.
Uh,
I know.
sorry for that interruption.
I know. Network.
Network.
Yeah.
Yeah. You back?
Oh, she's
Yeah.
back on.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, are you getting me? Let me
Yes.
Yeah,
just
we can hear you now.
I'm advising each and everyone to stop being people's pleaser because I've suffered that and I'm still working towards overcoming it because most children who have gone through trauma, they are usually people's pleasers. So I grew up struggling to please everybody, even at my own detriment. You
Yeah.
think that you just want to be the best, you want to show off, whereas you are not really what you think. And
Mm-hmm.
let's stop being too humble to a fault. When we are humble in a way that it affects us, that's no more humility. It means we don't like our own selves. And
Yeah.
just by stopping being people's pleaser is a way of working towards overcoming the trauma. Thank you. Thanks to all viewers who have watched us, and I truly appreciate that this was a great session that has not only boosted the self-esteem of viewers, it has boosted mine as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
really happy to
Wow.
hear that. And thank you so much, ladies. Thank you. Thank you so much for, wow, 2 hours almost
I know.
on
Yeah, I can't
on the
believe it.
show.
Mm,
It
Oh my
yeah.
means this
goodness.
was an interesting topic. So
Yeah.
Yes.
I am grateful, and I do pray that we have all learned, we've all taken something from this
Sure.
show today. And I have as well. Remember when I put that post up, that I am still thinking of childhood trauma, because when I sit and I look back, there are certain things that I react to. Sometimes I wonder, where is this reaction coming from? Is it just because of something that has happened now, or is it because of something that happened in the past that is coming back? Like I talked about decision making. I mean, decisions were being made for me right
Uh-huh.
up to when I was getting married at 26. No, 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 no. Please,
Oh.
it's not it's not the laughing matter. The only thing I stood my grounds was my wedding dress. So now,
Oh.
some
Yeah. Well, I know.
sometimes I feel threatened when that decision is being made for me, I feel like this is something that was always done to me in the past. I'm now an adult, I'm now a grown-up woman, I'm now a mother. So why should it still be happening now? So there are those things that happened to us in the past that they still affect us now as we are adults. It doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter your status, whether you're a parent or you're the president. Our president back home in Cameroon, he may also be struggling from childhood trauma that may also be
Sure.
affecting the way he is behaving today, even at his age. So it's good to look back, to reflect, and think what happened to you in the past and how is that affecting you now. And sometimes you need to go through a tragedy or through a challenging period or a challenging moment for you to be able to realize that you are not actually struggling just because of what has happened to you now. It may be an accumulation of things from the past. So I really want to thank everyone who is watching or who has watched or who has shared. If you have further questions, just pop them here and we will get back to the question. So the Voice of Hope Media is a safe space, is a platform. If you remember, here we do not bash people. Here we do not say this one said this, that one said that. Here we are educating, we are empowering, we are inspiring, and we are giving hope to people who are facing or people who have faced challenging or complex life issues. And we are also giving them that opportunity to speak up, to speak out, know that they are worthy, know that whatever thing they are saying, if people will hear them, people will not stigmatize them, and people will not shame them. So thank you so much. But before we go, let me just read this quote from Fred Rogers. It says, anything that's human is mentionable, and anything that's mentionable can be more manageable. When we can talk about our feelings, they become more or they become less overwhelming, less upsetting, and less scary. The people we trust with that important talk can actually help us know that we are not alone. So everything that we shared here today, it's giving hope to others out there for them to know that they are not
I'm not
alone.
alone.
There's this saying the that says when you share your story with someone, you know that this person is your sister, is when you share your story with another person and the person says, sis, bro, even you've experienced this, you're also going through this.
I
It's
know,
it's
yeah.
a joy, even though you may be sharing something that's very sad or traumatizing, but it brings that joy in you to know that, oh, I'm not the only one going through this. And we all here, we are not alone. There are people out there experiencing this, and we have given them that voice today. We have opened their eyes and we have opened their minds to think, to reflect, and also to know that they can reach out and get help. So thank you so much. Have a good weekend,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank
And
you. Thank
yeah,
you. I
and
want to thank you, Karis. I want to thank you for hosting. Obviously,
thank
it's
you.
a lot of hard work you've had to put into this, to do the poster and everything. And thank you very much for inviting me. And thank you to everybody who's watching. We hope that you can take something from this, from everything you've heard today. And
Yeah.
have a good weekend, ladies. And nice meeting you, ladies.
You
Nice
too
meeting
then.
you as well, Alima.
Yeah.
Thank you, Clarice.
Thank you.
Thanks,
You're
You're
Johanna.
welcome.
welcome.
I
Yeah.
hope to connect with you ladies
Sure,
behind the scenes.
Oh,
everybody,
you
you
will.
then.
Oh, yes. And anyone
Yeah.
watching, if you need a
Yeah.
mindset coach, right?
We have
I
that's
you,
one
you
already.
know how do you know how I describe her? She's Queen Elizabeth's niece.
Okay.
Who is from Bafoot in Cameroon. So
Yeah,
Queen
so
Elizabeth had links with Bafoot. And then she's my sister and I'm from Com. Please get in touch
That's
with
can I
either of
just
Thank
say
those
one
you.
thing,
mindset
Clarice,
coach.
before?
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is
Okay.
it all right for me to talk about my workshop, Clarice? Okay. I thought
Yes,
I thought I'll
yes,
ask. Yeah, so
Okay.
yeah,
if you are watching and you are interested in kickstarting a change to your mindset before 2021, then I am running a mindset detox workshop on the 28th of November. It is going to happen from 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. It is a Saturday, 4 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. on the 28th of November. If you are interested, then please do get in touch with either Clarice or myself, and we would give you more information about it. It is on my website as well. Yeah, just get in touch with either Clarice or myself, and then we would direct you on how to get signed up or to register for the workshop.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I wish you all a happy weekend and stay blessed. Bye bye.
Stay blessed. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.